figure this out. Okay. Trying to figure out how to do this with I ain't in the frame. All right. Hey, Bella. All right. So they're in verdict watch, and quite frankly, I have changed. Oh, little Bella, watch out! Don't want to close your head in the laptop. Yeah. So I've really I've changed my mind on so many things. I mean, just listening to Georgia outline everything, I really am beginning to think that Wendy did not have any part in this. And even though I have thought for years that she did have a hand in it, or at the very least, she psychologically tweaked everybody's emotions to the point where they would be driven to something this drastic. Because I really believed that she wanted to be out of there and back in Miami. But the more things that Georgia brought out, I began to think, you know what? I think she didn't want to be in Miami. She just wanted people to simp for her and feel bad for her. And that's why she just badmouthed Dan so much, because she just reveled in people treating her like, oh, you poor baby. I believe that she didn't want to be around her mother 24/7. I mean, think about it. Who would want to be around such an overbearing person when you're in your 40s or late 30s and you're raising your own children and listening to your mother tell you every single move you make is right or wrong? And you know Donna was like that, right? So I think that Wendy was just playing, like blaming Dan for so many things that really she wanted. And she would just not want to be the heavy. So she would say, Dan's such a, whatever, and just milking it and just over, I don't know what the word is, so forget over. But yeah, so now I'm of the belief that, and I don't even think that Donna, if you want to know the truth, I don't think the state did the best job of showing the connection. I mean, yes, there were so many indicators, but an indicator is not necessarily a, proof unless you want to make that leap. And I'll never forget when I watched the closing that Mark O'Mara did with George Zimmerman. It was so powerful. He was the defense. And he got, him off for killing Trayvon Martin, who, if you remember back then, where racial tensions were so high in that case, I mean, it was just hard to believe that he could get his client off. But that's what a really great defense attorney can do. He can straddle the fence between offending the families of the victim and, zealously representing his client. And Mark O'Mara was so respectful to the victims, but he also was very adamant. He was like, look, he goes, it's a high burden. I get it. He goes, but you want to take away somebody's liberty and put them in a cell block for 40 years? You got to meet that burden. And then he went on to say that, he had that chart, and I don't know if you've ever seen that in trials, but it's like, there's like 10 words before the word guilty, and it's like, if you think my client is mostly guilty, you got to vote not guilty. If you think my client could be guilty, and then he goes up to the top, he said, you got to vote not guilty. If you think my client, and he goes back and forth, and you just realize that it is such a high burden. And so many verdicts that we see, they're based on emotion, or they're just based on dumb juries. No offense. But if you really are going to follow the letter of the law, I don't know that Georgia made that connection. And then I was confused because I heard there were 3 counts. But then I heard that the defense wanted murder or nothing. So maybe it was 3 counts for murder, because I heard the other 2 lesser includeds were removed. So I'm a little confused about that. But I'm watching these closings and I'm just getting to the point where I'm like, maybe Wendy was just the most manipulative person and had that narcissistic thing where everything is about her and poor me. And, the problem is that she was the kind of person that really needed to be worshiped and adored. And Dan was the same way. And so when the two of them started to feel like, you're lucky you're with me and you're lucky you're with me, and both of them felt like, I can't stand you because you're too full of yourself, I think that's where all that resentment came from. And then when just listening to the divorce, even though I did not agree that it was not contentious, it definitely was contentious, but it wasn't one of the worser ones. I've seen so many family court hearings or whatever, and there is spit and sizzle coming off the other side, and it's so contentious. It's dangerous. And this didn't seem dangerous, although that's a stupid thing to say considering the outcome. But I'm just saying, I could understand where the defense attorneys were saying it's not as contentious as some of the ones I've seen. And I think that had something to do with the fact that Dan was a professional and Wendy was a professional. And so maybe in other cases that most of these divorce attorneys have seen, the people didn't have as many means as Dan and Wendy, and therefore they felt more pressure. And so I don't know. I really started to be convinced if I was on that jury, oh boy, it'd be bad. Because I started out thinking there is no way this woman is not guilty. And even now, I think she's 100% guilty. Do not misunderstand. But I don't know. As I mentioned in STS, I was like, I've seen so many verdicts lately that have surprised me, and it's from juries just not following the law. But it also seems that juries are so much more likely now not to convict, just thinking that the state is a big bad prosecutor. And there's so much propaganda out there that everybody is corrupt and this and that. And I think it's filtered down to our jury system. And so I'm seeing people walk that should never have walked. I've also seen a couple of verdicts where they deserve to get a guilty verdict, and textbook, the trial just goes off the way it should and they get a guilty verdict and it's over. But this one, because it's so complicated and it's been so long and Donna is so old and Wendy is so sus, I just don't think it's that cut and dried. So I will be surprised if it's a quick verdict and a quick guilty verdict. I will be surprised. And not because I don't think Donna's guilty. Definitely think she is. But I think that our courts have gotten so convoluted with all the social media and all the excuse me, the advocacy groups, even though I didn't see anyone advocating for Donna except the state. But, I just wouldn't be surprised if it's not as easy as Charlie's. Even though Charlie's, I was very shocked that it came back the way it did, because I said yesterday when I was trying to sum up what Charlie did, in my opinion, he did everything right. He was the most perfect witness. He had an answer for everything, and while people were saying he had too many answers, I don't think that was what his downfall was. He was arguing and being like such a smart ass with Georgia, and he wasn't taking any of her questions really serious, and he was just downplaying everything. And as I summed it up, I thought that he won the battle with Georgia, but he just lost the war and got that sentence. And speaking of Charlie, I know I said this the other day, but it just broke my heart to see him in that van like that, because all the past couple of days they've been playing Charlie videos, and I've seen him look so different than in that van. And I'll be honest with you, when I first saw Charlie's arraignment where he had like that afro, I thought he looked kind of good. I was surprised he didn't go back to that, but the way his hair was the other day, it was all uneven and all chopped, and he looked deranged. He didn't look good. But then there was that moment where he kind of smiled and thanked the guard, and he seemed lucid. Excuse me. So maybe he's, just accepted his fate. I mean, if jail does anything, it humbles a person. And I would love to him to, like maybe, who knows? I mean, we don't know. I wish he would have come in and testified, because we could have been able to kind of tell where he was at mentally. Like Katie come in, and even though she still lied, because like they said, why she would say that about Louis, she didn't even know Louis and Sigfredo were together. When she said that, I typed in the chat. I was like, how could she say that? She contacted Louis on that trip when she couldn't reach Sigfredo, I think to tell him about take that owl off of Facebook or whatever. And somebody typed back to me and said, no, that was when the money was ready, and I wasn't going to argue because it didn't really matter. But I knew I remembered hearing it on the trip, and sure enough, she texted him then. So how did she not know? So she still lied, but you could tell she was thriving in prison. I mean, I know she's not happy to be there, but she looked good. She looked healthy. Louis also looked healthy. I don't know how he looked before, but Katie looked so bad during her first two trials with the stupid braids and everything, and fat. But here I thought she looked good. I thought she looked good during Charlie's trial. So prison does agree with some people. I mean, when they get with the program and they realize this is their fate, some people go on to have a productive life in jail. And they were living such a terrible life when they were on the outside that jail turns out to be a blessing. So I was hoping to see if Charlie, through everything that's gone on, if he's kind of reflected on his life and realized that he was such a shallow fool, and maybe, decided that he has accepted his fate, and maybe wants to help educate people in prison or whatever. But the way he looked in that van, I just didn't get the impression that he was all there. Like, I think prison has, I even think I saw in his face like a nervous tick. So I was like, well, I don't know that he's going to be productive in prison. But then you look at Scott Peterson, he doesn't look any worse for wear. You look at the Menendez brothers, they, went on to have productive lives in prison. And I was hoping the same thing for Charlie, because, I mean, yeah, I know what he did was a horrible, awful thing, but I think when you get all your cars and your house and your life and your freedom and you're walked around in chains for the next 30 years, I think that's a pretty severe punishment. So I wouldn't have minded to see him adapting to prison. But I think because of all that thing with the gangs and everything, I think maybe once he starts to find a footing, then he gets in trouble or he gets threatened and he has to be moved. And so it's hard to take root, I guess. I don't know. But yeah. So then, after I was listening to Georgia and everything, and I was just convinced, well, I don't want to say convinced, but I was persuaded that maybe, just maybe, Wendy this is the part I have a problem with. Although I guess if Donna, I just couldn't believe that Donna. Here's two things I can't reconcile. I just can't believe that Donna could feel that the boys would be better off with a dead dad their whole life. I mean, my mother lost her father at 9 years old. My grandmother was Jewish, not Orthodox, but very religious. And it was so hard on my mother her whole life. And I just find it hard to believe that Donna couldn't realize that you just don't rip a father from the lives of the children like that and have it not have terrible consequences. But then again, when you realize that Donna had devalued Dan so much and she felt that he had no worth in her mind, zero worth. So it wouldn't be that hard to imagine that she could just think that she's doing the boys a favor and that the quality of their life will be so much better, and Wendy will marry a better man, and they'll not religious, not a zealot, and the boys will have kind of normal American lives rather than very religious Jewish lives. And So I guess I could make the leap for how she could have done that. But then I have the other thing is with Charlie. I guarantee you, he never even gave it a second thought. He was mesmerized by how important he would look to Wendy. Well, I don't know about to Wendy because I don't know if Wendy actually knew that. I keep going back to that. But how he would, get his mother's appreciation, and that seems to be that mama's boy, that's all he lived for, to validate him. So, I don't think Charlie ever sat there for 1 minute and said, yeah, I'm hiring a man to kill the father of my niece. Is it niece? Yeah, my two nephews. I mean, I just don't think he ever thought that far in advance. Because if he did, there's just no way that he could have said, yeah, I am, but who cares? I don't know. I just don't think he thought that forward. And then I was thinking, oh, there was another thought that I had. It slipped my mind. Oh, yes. So, my other thought is people are so quick to condemn Donna, and yes, she deserves it. But the one pass that I give her is they were hiring a hitman. And even though that's a coward's way out and, they got caught, I still think that when you hire a hitman, you don't have any time to really change your mind. You don't even think about it. Like if you were the one that was getting the gun and driving to follow the guy and stalking him and then deciding, okay, I'm going to run up to him in the driveway. If this was Donna doing that or Charlie doing it with a friend or something, I think they could easily have backed out and said, what are we doing? We're crazy. But I think because they were once removed from the actual act, they just never took it past the end result, which was Dan, as somebody, a thorn in their side, would be gone. And all they would have to do is pay $100,000 and problem solved. And that's all. They were so short-sighted, and that's, I think, how all that happened. So, I don't know. Then we're back to Wendy, and like I said, I vacillate back and forth. I don't think she actually I don't think it was her idea. I don't think that they ever all had an actual conversation about it. I think if Wendy was felt out for if she would have been okay with them removing Dan from her life permanently, I think they kind of just, danced around it. Like maybe when she was down there that weekend where she texted him, I think he had really maybe just pissed her off, and she was really emotional because we know that she's like she has that histrionic personality. So I think maybe they just kind of felt her out. Like when she was visiting, they were like, wouldn't it be terrible if Dan had a horrible car accident? And if Wendy would have said something like, no, it wouldn't have been so bad, I wouldn't miss him, or something like that, then maybe Donna could have said something, or Charlie, like, oh, really? You wouldn't? And Wendy would be like, no, I could care less. And they'd be like, oh, good to know. Do you know when he's going to be out of town? And Wendy would be like, I think he's going out next weekend. And Charlie could have been like, well, make sure. And she could have just texted him. I mean, it could have been that simple, if you will. Could have been something like that. They didn't have to have this deep conversation where Charlie's like, look, I know a guy. And Wendy's saying, oh, what would he do? How would he do it? They didn't have all those conversations. So if it was done that minimalistic, where Wendy really didn't know anything, she just kind of sanctioned whatever will be, I don't care, I hate the man, I could maybe see it happening. And nobody in that family ever sitting there for 1 minute realizing that. And you got to realize, because they paid cash, there would be no money trail. And a lot of times with these hitmen, there's always an audit done, and they always somehow find, money. But, I mean, they found the money that they gave to Katie, but that was just to further the conspiracy or her involvement. But it didn't connect Donna. Well, it kind of did. I don't know. I'm like knocking now because I'm going over all these details, and I'm just like, my head is spinning, and I can't. To me, if I were that jury, it would go one of two ways. Either they were not the least bit sidetracked by the state's arguments, like their mind was almost made up, or if it wasn't made up, her method and her delivery and her voice and everything just didn't penetrate their thinking. So they're either know what they got to do, they're focused, they listened to the state's arguments, but they just didn't give them any real weight because they didn't think they were good enough, and they're just going to deliberate pretty much all of George's case. They're not going to allow the state's, I don't know what the word is because I'm tired. But they're not going to, minutia, I guess, they're not going to allow that to penetrate their focus on if Georgia proved her case or not. And if they do that, they will come back with a verdict pretty quick. But if they give any real weight to the arguments and the letter of the law that Jackie was trying to further, then there's a chance that they could kind of deliberate a really long time, go around in circles, their head could start spinning because it's so much to process. And the only way they're going to come with a quick or even a complete verdict is if they are very focused and they are concentrating on the important parts and they're not trying to sort out every little thing, because if Karen Reed's case has shown us anything, there can be more coincidences unexplained than you ever would imagine. And so I'm thinking, if I had to lay money on it, just going by what Joel said, that they were so in lockstep, he called it, with each other. And I don't really put any stock in that, because I've seen so many jurors where they all they all eat together, they stay outside together, and you just think, oh, they're all like besties, and then they come back deadlocked. So you can't really go by that. But if he's right, they will have a quick verdict, and I wouldn't be surprised if they had it by this evening. Now, obviously, if they're hung, but I just can't see them being hung. But then you look at Donna, and and that kind of annoyed me too. That's why I'm sitting here talking to myself instead of a chat talking to other people, because I cannot listen to it anymore. I mean, it's like an echo chamber, and I really hate to use that word because it's so overused, but I mean, goodness gracious, that's all you see. People just saying the same thing over and over and over and over. Arrest Wendy, when do you think Wendy? And you're just like, how can people just sit there all day long saying the same thing, reading the same thing? It doesn't work like that. And I do not see an arrest for Wendy on the horizon. And I'll be honest with you, I was feeling that she had a very good chance of being arrested right up until all the closings. And when I started to see how Wendy was so manipulative and so self-involved and just really wanted everybody's sympathy. I don't think she wanted Dan dead. I think she just wanted everyone to take her side and to feel like poor Wendy, and she just wanted everyone to simp for her. But I don't think that her goal was to have Dan killed. Now, I do think that when she was in the interview and it started to slowly dawn on her that Dan was going to be gone, and she did not have to share any decision making with him. She could live wherever she wanted. And that's another thing. I do not think that Wendy whisked herself and her sons off to Florida because I can finally go to Miami where I always wanted to be. I think it was, as usual, to foist her kids off on Donna. Donna was only too happy to always take care of those boys. She thought of them as her own children, we've heard. And Wendy was only too happy to throw them on her. And you can't do that with a babysitter. If you get a regular babysitter or an au pair and you are constantly foisting your children off on them, you start to look like a bad mother. But if the kids are with the Grammy, I don't think anybody ever judges you poorly for that reason. So I think that Wendy wanted to be around her mother so she could, have that free child care with no judgment. That's what I think. Well, anyway, so I just think that when she went into that interview room and it slowly started to dawn on her that she was free of Dan saying no and contesting everything and just giving her a really hard time. I think she thought, I can play this role really well because number one, she was so happy to be free of him in this way, but she didn't want to show that. And she was trying to fake tears and fake cry and all that just because she knew that it would be terrible if she didn't show emotion. But she didn't have any real emotion to show because, for one thing, she's what's that called? An empty vessel. And so she faked it. And by faking it, she came off looking very suspect, and people all automatically just jump to the conclusion, oh, she knew, she knew, she knew. But I don't think she knew. I think she just was so happy and she couldn't masquerade it as grief, even though she tried. And so it came off just looking off. So that's the first thing, I think. And secondly, what is the second thing? I think that was pretty much it. So her whole interview, and she also felt that, oh wow, I can get people to feel sorry for me even more now, because now, where she was always trying to gain people's sympathy by being the wronged wife and Dan is such a monster and whatever, it was harder to get people to sympathize with her because a lot of people liked Dan and they were kind of hip to her bullshit, and so it wasn't as easy. But now that Dan has passed away and she has these two beautiful children that are fatherless, she's able to just fall into that role of, give me all the sympathy you can and I'll eat it up. So I was, like I said, I was playing that song that I wrote, and I'll play it here just so anybody, the one person that might watch this. I listened to it today with different ears because I was like, you know what? No, I don't want you on my thing in case you give me a copyright strike. Okay. I don't want that either. All right, let's see. I'm going to just play the song because honestly, when I heard the song, I made the song, and I've been playing it for almost a year, and it always just resonated with me that she did this horrible thing, and she's just such an evil woman. And now I'm not so sure. And when I play this song, I'm like, okay, well, it still applies in some ways, but not all the lines apply, because there's this part where it says, two little boys wondering why this had to be. Why couldn't we stay in Tallahassee? The price you made them pay. You traded their bright future for your dark getaway. And I don't know that she did. So here we go. We're going to play it. Bella, don't be scared. It's going to be loud, Bella. It's okay? Come on, Bella. You alright?
Wendy, tell me true, what's on your mind when mama's locked away? How do you shine? Left your family crying while you cross state lines. Your boy Charlie's gone, doing his prison tour, all because you wanted Dan to pay the score. Now your brother lives behind an iron door. Wendy, any regrets? Miami to Austin, running far away, while your kids grow up without their father each day. Turned us all against him, one by one, played us like puppets till the deed was done. Now the family's destroyed and you're the only one. Wondering why this had to be. Why couldn't we stay in Tallahassee. The price you made them pay. You traded their bright future for your dark getaway. You didn't get the gun and you didn't pull the trigger. No, your hate was the weapon used. Just stood back and you lit the fuse. Oh yeah, you lit the fuse. Yeah, lit the fuse. Lit the fuse.
Yeah, so when I hear that today, I was just like, because I made Bella, here, I'll show you. I made a video of it with Bella in the background. And when I played it today, right after, because I'm always watching Bella videos, I'm her #1 fan. I watch. Okay, Bella and I made a song about an AI. Made a song about Wendy Adelson, and here it goes.
Wendy, tell me true, what's on your mind? When mama's locked away, how do you shine? Left your family crying while you cross state lines.
I may be crazy, but I think she feels and understands that song. But anyway, so when I played it today, I was like, I just didn't feel that she really, really did this. After listening to those 4 hours of closing arguments, I'm kind of convinced that she just was all those things that I said, but in on the planning, no. And that's where I'm at with that. But I was going to ask CoPilot what he thought before I end the stream and go eat my dinner. So let's see what he thinks. Hey, Bella. Oh, I gotta sign in. Okay. I'm going to ask him what he thinks of my theory. He's frozen. All right, try again. You there, CoPilot? Wake up.
Hey, Carol.
Hey. So the closing arguments have begun for the Donna Adelson case. And both sides talked for about
Closing arguments in the Donna Adelson case have...
I'm telling you, you're not telling me. I wanted your opinion on something. Are you listening?
Absolutely. I'm all ears.
Okay.
What's on your...
Okay. So the closing arguments have commenced for the Donna Adelson case. And the state gave like the most amazing argument. Are you able to, without going out into the internet and coming back with a bunch of words, are you able to, is there any feedback on how good the state's closing was? Or you don't know?
I haven't looked up the specifics yet, but I can check for you right now. The state's closing argument in the Donna Adelson case was described as powerful and compelling, painting a vivid picture of her alleged role. The prosecution argued that Adelson orchestrated a murder-for-hire plot against her former son-in-law, Dan Markel. The defense, on the other hand, argued that while Adelson may have disliked Markel, it didn't prove she arranged his murder. The jury will now deliberate on her fate. I'll keep an ear out for the verdict.
Okay. Well, I kind of think that the state did, why do I keep saying the state? I do think that the defense interjected enough doubt.
Points to create doubt?
Well, not doubt in her guilt. Like, that's where it all is confusing for me, because I don't think there's any doubt that she definitely sanctioned it. I think Charlie came up with it because he was just so desperate to please mommy. And Donna was on board when he hinted at it. I'm not sure if Wendy was on board. I kind of don't think so. But anyway, So I think the defense was successful in saying that the state did not prove their burden, and that so much of it was theory, conjecture, finger pointing, and interpretation. Did you
Yeah.
yeah, did you follow any of it? I mean, I know you didn't, but like, what is the deciding factor? Because you could probably say that about any case that doesn't have a smoking gun.
You're right. Cases often hinge on how convincingly each side presents their evidence and interpretation. Without a smoking gun, it can come down to whether the jury believes the narrative and connections presented. The burden is on the state to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, but that's all old school. I mean, have you not been watching what's been going on the past year, especially with the Karen Reed case? It has just undermined our entire justice system to the point where and also like with ASAP Rocky. I mean, I really love that trial. I thought Tacopito was a really great attorney, but it was the same type of a thing. Like, yeah, you know, they showed him even with a gun, but they didn't show him because it was off camera where he took his banged the gun, shot the gun, and he got off. He got off, and because they didn't have, you know, footage of him doing it. And with Karen Reed, I mean, she just walked away, even though the evidence was so compelling. So I just think it's a new order. What do you think?
your frustration makes sense. Legal outcomes can feel unpredictable. Recent high profile cases have showcased the complexity of the justice system, where evidence, perception, and legal strategies intersect. It appears there's a growing spotlight on the burden of proof and the role of media in shaping public opinion. It's definitely a conversation that's evolving. What's your take on how this affects public trust in justice?
Oh God, it's so in decline. But even like if you think of Sean Puffy Combs, I mean that if you remember when they first raided his compound, that lawyer came out, Buxby, whatever, and he just was trying to make it sound like everybody was going down, and once everything came out, it was going to be so bad, and meanwhile, not one person was indicted. And the case itself, even though it had, I forget her name, but she was on the stand like 5 days. And even with that video where he like dragged her through the hotel, I mean, and all the information that came out about him, you would have thought that the jury was going to like give him guilty all the way across. But I didn't think so. I thought he was maybe going to get off. And sure enough, I mean, he didn't get off, but he beat like what, what did he beat? Like 7? How many charges did he get? Go.
Let's check on the details of Sean Puffy Combs' case to see how many charges he faced and what the outcome was.
Okay, you don't have to talk about it. Just come back with the answer. Thank you.
Sean Puffy Combs was acquitted of the more severe charges like racketeering and sex trafficking. However, he was convicted on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution.
So 2 out of the 4 counts he beat?
Exactly. He was acquitted on 2 counts, but the charges he was found guilty of show how complex and nuanced these cases can be. Did you follow?
Well, no. I mean, so I'm just making the point that I'm watching a trend of, unless the state can prove it so beyond any kind of doubt, and it's not the standard, but I was just wondering what they can do about it.
You've nailed a huge challenge in the legal system. The burden of proof is indeed high, especially in criminal cases. To combat this trend, prosecutors need to focus on gathering stronger, more concrete evidence and ensuring airtight cases.
Yeah, but you know, that's going to be hard to do, because think about it. Even when you sit there and you watch someone like Corbett, and I don't think that, you know, in the Donna Adelson case, I don't think there was a more, whatever the word is, he was fantastic. And even Garino in the Karen Reed case, I mean, it's like everything can be questioned. Like, the more evidence that we get that can make things more concrete, it's almost like that's muddying the waters instead of clearing them up. And GPS and all that, I mean, that how long to die in the cold, that was the most ridiculous. When I was watching that trial the first time and I was seeing all these people convinced that Jennifer McCabe had done that search at 2 a.m., I was like, do you mean to tell me with this worldwide coverage that there's no expert at Google that's hearing all this nonsense and saying, give me their number, let me just call and explain the way it works? I couldn't believe that that myth had gone on for, to this day it goes on. So I don't understand. So we have all this technology and we have people to interpret it, but then we have idiots listening to it. What do you do?
It is frustrating when misinformation or misinterpretation clutters the truth, especially in legal cases. The key might be in improving digital literacy and education. Providing clear, accurate information and encouraging critical thinking can help people sift through the noise. The justice system and tech companies could collaborate more closely to address these challenges. What would you suggest as
Yes, definitely. A user-friendly report. Because right now, the way I understand the software at Cellbrite and all of that is it takes the information and it trains the agent to learn how to use how to interpret the reports. But they need a go-between report that once the agent understands, then he needs to be able to make a report that he can show to a jury at a glance, this, and this happened. Because right now, it's impossible to understand. I mean, and it's so boring too. And juries just like, they just like discount that whole thing. But yeah. All right. Anyway, my dinner's ready. So thank you. And I'll let you know what the verdict is. Who will know first, you or me?
Enjoy your dinner, Carol, and I'm eager to hear the verdict when it comes out.
What about Bella? You didn't even say hi to her or bye.
Give Bella some extra cuddles for me. Hope she enjoys dinner too.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Take care, Carol. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
All right, before I go, I'll play one more song. My theme song. You ready, Bella? She loves this song. She's gonna dance. Okay, Bella. Get ready. Here we go. Whoops. Whoops, sorry. Did I scare you?
There's this channel on YouTube, Bossy Texas Chick. Makes her music with robots, ain't that quite a trick? No schedules or plans, she'll just start streaming lives. Never knows what she's doing, live stream breaks out in hives. Can't find the play button, misplaced her headset too. CoPilot's acting crazy and her audience is few. But she keeps coming back, no special day of the week. If you find yourself bored, here's the relief that you seek. B&B's a dumpster fire, and you'll love every part. From Bossy scattered brain to Bella's chill heart. When it all goes riches and all. The times that she stumbles, the times she might fall, she'll guide a song wherever they sound. A breath of fresh air on this cookie channel you found. And she